Maybe you woke up and you're in a decent mood, right? You had some good sex the night before. You wake up, you're in a decent mood, and now her astrologer tells her, oh, it's going to be a bad day. Yesterday was good, but now it's going to be a bad day. And they will sort of make sure that it becomes a bad day. So this topic here is one that's liable to ruffle a few feathers, and that's okay, right? We all have our own opinions, and we're just here to share it. Now, the subject of today's video is what are you going to do if you meet a woman who is into astrology and or human design, or if in the middle of your relationship, she becomes interested in those topics. Now, you might be one of those people that says it's just a complete no, right? I know there are a percentage of men that just, if she's into that, no, thank you. And that's fine. That's your boundary. I'm not here to try to convince you otherwise. However, that does seriously diminish the dating pool, especially the women that are into astrology. That's definitely going to diminish the dating pool somewhat, to the point where at some point or other, you might find yourself, considering, all right, so is this something that I'm okay with, that I can handle? Now, of course, like any other thing, like men with sports, okay, there is being into something, and then there is being married to something, okay? When I was a younger man, if the Dolphins lost on Sunday, I had a bad day at work on Monday. I wasn't pleasant. And I would just let everybody know, Dolphins lost yesterday. I'm pissed. Just leave me alone. It's not really a great way to be, but I was younger, and what can you do? The football's in the blood, right? As I've gotten older and matured now, I'm upset for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, depending on how the game goes. But then that's done. That's over with. I go about my day and everything is fine. Now, in terms of astrology, the thing with that is that it varies along a wide range in terms of just how seriously people take it. Okay. And somewhat the same with human design. Now, it's one thing, okay, if, a woman is into, what sign are you, these types of things. Maybe she wants to listen to the daily horoscope, but we'll get into that a little bit. I don't necessarily see any issues with taking it as somewhat of entertainment. Okay. Now, I know that there's people that think it's complete hogwash. I know there's people that think it's evil. Okay. And the reality of the situation is that whether you believe in it or not, I think most of us can agree that at the very least, there are similarities between signs. You see what I'm saying? Like most Leos, I'm a Leo, most Leos are outgoing, gregarious, etc. Something like that. It can be used on the back end to say, yeah, I'm kind of like this, I'm kind of like that. However, the issue becomes when your partner becomes married to it and begins to use it as an excuse for bad behavior. And that can happen pretty rapidly, because as somebody's getting into those systems, they're designed to make it sound like, oh yeah, that's me. That's definitely me. That's how I am. And then the further that you get into those systems, you start, excusing yourself for any of the decisions that you might have made, or any of the mistakes, etc., or bad behavior. Okay. You start excusing yourself. Well, they shouldn't have said that because I'm a Taurus, that type of thing. Okay. Or, it's because, she's a Leo and I know Leos trigger me. And then that's when the real issues start to crop up, because they will not just use it as an excuse for past bad behavior, but they will also use it as an excuse for what they're fixing to do to you. Okay. If they're learning one of these new systems and they're being told, where you're like this and your partner's like this, so you should handle it this way, they will change their behavior. They will begin to act differently. And then if they do whatever the guru or the astrologer is telling them to do. If they do that and you don't respond the way they were told that you would respond, it immediately becomes your fault. It becomes your problem. Well, you're not willing to learn. You're not open-minded enough. You're not hearing what I'm saying. So it's a quick transition, and that's the one thing that I can tell you, especially if they start to learn these things while you're already in the relationship. It can be a very, very quick transition from, you know, pretty much compatible, but maybe you have an issue here, communication here or there. You got some issues, right? Normal, right? But then they start to learn from other people. They start to learn these other systems, these other truths, as they will tell you. And before you know it, you're so knee deep in things, and you just realize, and you hear the things that they're saying, and the phrases and the terminology that's coming out of their mouth, and it's completely like a new person. It's like a foreign object has been inserted into your life, and it wasn't anything that you wanted to do with, but you're trying to salvage the relationship. You're trying to be as amicable with things as possible. Only thing that you can do now, there's two things. Okay, I'll first talk about if you meet somebody and you haven't established a relationship, etc. If you find out that they are married to either system, if you find out that they're going to listen to the morning horoscope and base their day, base their actions, and sort of premeditate what their attitude is going to be. Maybe you woke up and you're in a decent mood, right? You had some good sex the night before. You wake up and you're in a decent mood, and now her astrologer tells her, "Oh, it's going to be a bad day. You know, yesterday was good, but now it's going to be a bad day." And they will sort of make sure that it becomes a bad day. It becomes less of a tool to just have some entertainment about why certain things might be the way they are, and it becomes the law. It becomes the law to them, especially if they have a good astrologer that gets some things right every once in a while. They will begin to just follow their advice, follow their suggestions. So if you are in the courting stage and you're just meeting someone, obviously, if you're somebody that says no astrology or human design, if you're somebody like that, then that's an easy call. The thing that I would do in that situation, if they're kind of into it and you're trying to gauge the level of interest that they might have in it in the future, ask some questions about their religious past, their spiritual past. Try to find out any phases or stages that they went through. And if they're giving you honest answers, the reason why you're asking that is because that will give you a gauge to tell, okay, how gullible is this person? Or have they really just kind of been level-headed completely through their life? And I don't feel like this is going to be a problem. You can, reach back into a person's past and see, well, they did this and they did this and they did this. It sounds like they will just, every 6 weeks, it's the newest thing. It's the newest guru. And that's something I would avoid completely because, like I said in, I think the last couple of videos I did, not to fall into the trap of that you can fix someone, that their behavior will change because you're so masculine and your energy is so strong and good that they will change their behavior. And no, that generally speaking won't happen. Everybody's pretty much going to repeat themselves until they've learned the lesson. And if they did not view their previous actions as something to learn a lesson, then they will eventually repeat them. Now, the harder part is if you're in a relationship with someone and then all of a sudden it becomes a thing. That's going to be difficult because most likely in the beginning, you're going to want to be a good partner. You're going to want to be supportive. Okay. Now, this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but depending on just how serious the relationship is, how far along you are, I know some of you are going to kind of balk at this, and I get it. But if you have the time and the inclination, it might serve you a purpose in the beginning to learn alongside of her. Why, though? Hear me out. The reason why is that if you're learning alongside of her, if you really, if this is your wife, you really love this woman and you really want to protect the relationship rather than just immediately saying, no, that's garbage, that's hogwash, etc. If you learn alongside with her as the man, you're likely going to be able to poke holes in the things that she's being told. And if you can do that in a subtle enough way, you might be able to escape the trap of all of a sudden you being told that you're the problem because you're designed this way and she's designed this way. And it's going to be up to you to make sure that the way that you handle her matches, her design, or else it's going to be your fault. It's not an easy situation to deal with. Like I said, if it's somebody new, you can mess around along the edges of things. But if you get the feeling like, if when you ask the question about, well, what other phases, what religions have you been? And they're like, well, I was Christian, I was Buddhist, I was Hindu, I was more. If they just start listing off all of these things that they've been, it's likely that's going to be a problem because the new thing is going to come in and they will be all about that new thing until they're not. And they will drag you through kind of a hell period trying to get you to adjust your behavior and your opinions to match what they're learning, only to find 6 months later that they're like, I'm over that. And now you've just been emotionally tortured for the 6 months and none of what you did mattered. If it's your wife, significant other, partner, whatever word that you want to use, again, this is going to be a little bit more delicate. If you can catch it in the beginning, I would just poke around a little bit, learn it with her a little bit so that you can use the fact that you have some of the knowledge to poke holes into some of the things, or to at least be contrary, right? To at least be contrary to what is being taught. Because look, men and women, if there's one thing that we have in common, it's we kind of struggling in this day and age. You know what I mean? The world has changed to the point where the roles that we've had traditionally, it's all blurred at this point. And while men many times will kind of retreat into ourselves and just screw it, I'm going fishing, women will tend to look for something new and something new and something new to explain what's going on, to try to give them in their minds, a heads up of what's coming. But that can rapidly deteriorate into them just preparing for something that the astrologer said is going to happen in 2 weeks. And it can be emotional torture. So it's a fine line. And I'll probably do more videos on this subject because it's something that I think most men have experienced. If you Google, I lost my wife to astrology, or I lost my wife to human design, you will find man after man after man that say, yep, everything was fine. She started learning this. Then all of a sudden there was all these problems where there wasn't problems before. So most of the time as men, we kind of try to take a step back and not pay attention to the things that our wives might be doing with their free time and everything like that, live and let live and all of that. But you have to be careful. You have to make sure that what's going on is not going to be something that's going to rapidly become a massive detriment, not just to the relationship, but to your emotional and mental health.